What do you do if you get to the end and you don't have any good words to make a title from? What do you suppose you should do?
Add them in.
Rewrite them.
Rewrite. Yes. Good morning, Aiden.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm pretty good. Just tired.
Yeah, I think we're all there. So, good morning, Samra. How are you today?
Good morning.
Good morning. Yeah, Samra actually sent me that question yesterday about the title, so we'll talk about that. The titles are a little bit awkward right now just because we aren't doing a conclusion, right? But no matter what, you can always rewrite your last sentence so that you can make a good title, right? So if you get to the end of your paper and you look at your last sentence and it's really not that interesting and it really doesn't have any interesting words in it, it's your paper and you can rewrite the last sentence, right? That's the great thing about being the writer. You can do whatever you like in your words. Yes, Charlotte.
So do you write the title from the clincher sentence?
Yeah, you pick 2 or 3 good, strong keywords. Now, it doesn't necessarily be like, suppose you are writing about migration. You don't have to have a title that has the word migration in it. You can put some other words in that sentence, you know, like, Samra, did that make sense? I didn't hear back from you. Did you get my email?
I did. It makes sense.
Okay, so let me see. I'll try to see where this one is that I sent Samra. So suppose you had a clincher that said, these amazing mammals are world travelers. Suppose you had something like that. You wouldn't have to have world travelers as your title. What would be another option you could pick from those words? Now, I wouldn't mind it if you took world travelers and made that for your sentence, although some of you are very rightly resistant to that because the whole thing isn't about them being world travelers, right? But something you could put that would really apply to the whole thing would be what?
Amazing mammals.
Right. Yeah. So if you don't have some words that you like and you think all the words you have would make awkward titles, the thing to do is to decide what kind of title you would like and then rewrite your clincher so that you can include those words, right? So sometimes, does this happen to anybody? Do you sometimes have a title in mind already when you very first start writing something? Has that ever happened to anyone?
Yeah.
Okay. So the whole point of the title thing is, just like with topic clinchers, it gives unity to our paragraphs. The title, the clincher related to the title is another unity thing for our readers, okay? You don't want to call your paper something boring like whales. Okay? In here, red, where the red fern grows.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah. I never did read it until this last few months. I don't like sad dog stories. But one of my students wanted to write about it, and so I finally thought, you know, you should just read the book. Okay, you're a grown-up. You can endure a sad dog story here or there. And I read it, and I was entranced from the very first few pages. It's such a beautiful book, you know. It is sad, and if you haven't read it, but it's so good that it kind of offsets it being so sad. Does anybody else in here feel like that besides me? Okay. I'm glad I read it. But anyway, where do you find out where the red fern grows? That's the title. Where do you find that out? Huh? Where?
I said it.
The very end of the book is where you find that out. Up until then, you really don't know what the title has to do with the rest of the story, right?
Mhm.
And there's another book called As the Crow Flies. Apparently, that's in the very last sentence also of the book. Now, I've never read As the Crow Flies. I was actually given it by a writing family one time, and I didn't read it. And then I gave it away. So I still don't know what that book is about. But anyway, the author apparently did use that in their title. They used that title thing. And sometimes, and you'll see there's certain columnists that do this as well. There used to be a Breakpoint column. I don't know. I haven't seen Breakpoint here lately, but they were really good about doing that. They would have these very curious titles that enticed you to want to read it. Okay. So can anybody share? We're going to get started here in just a minute with the new stuff, but can anybody share their last sentence and then their title for us? Who tried it? Okay, Laura Kate. Well, tell us your title. Oh, tell us your last sentence and then tell us your title.
Okay. A humpback entertains the crowd by composing moving melodies and crashing through the horizon while doing one of his angelic backflips.
Oh, okay. And so what'd you call it?
Inspiring humpbacks.
There you go. That's amazing. Okay. Anybody else want to share theirs with us? Okay, Rosa.
Because of their talents, humpback whales are one of the most stunning specimens of sea life. And my title is Stunning Specimens of Sea Life.
Oh, cool. I love that. Okay, so I have plenty of students that do this all the time. And so you don't have to make a title that you feel is awkward. You just have to make sure that there's a connection there. Okay, so here's an example. This is my level 3 handbook. This is the top class. And they do this paper that they work on all year called A Great Idea Gone Wrong. And one of the girls wrote about gene editing last year. And I put it in the handbook because I needed a good example of this. And this paper starts on page 204. And the actual paper itself goes to page 212, but it's single spaced. So that's 8 pages, really probably more like 16 pages, and that doesn't even include her works cited page. But here's her last sentence, and it's society just needs to preserve and be prudent to attain such a future. Oh, here's the last sentence. Gene editing can greatly benefit humanity if society accepts the challenge. And her paper was called The Challenge. So now, one place you do not want to do this is in a science paper. All right. If you write a science focused paper for my class, you still do need to do it. But if you write a science paper for a science teacher, if you were writing about gene editing, what do you think that the paper should be called? Gene editing. Apparently, scientists don't want intriguing titles. They just want you to tell them what the thing is, you know? And so you have to be careful, and you have to make sure that your professor is okay with that. Even some English professors are not okay with it. Like if you're writing a paper about where the red fern grows, they would want you to call it Where the Red Fern Grows. But you got to find out, okay? But in my class, we're going to practice doing this because this is a unity thing. We don't want to just spill all our beans like in the first line of the paper about what the paper's about. And we'll be talking more about that when we get to talking about introductions and conclusions, which we will talk about the next time, okay? So the first thing I want to do is go over our last three style things. And then we won't have to worry about any more style things until after Christmas. Then after Christmas, we'll start working on descriptive writing to add to our style. But right now, we just have 3 more style techniques. How did the sentence types go for y'all this time? We have the subject, the ly, and the prepositional. How did that go? Was that pretty doable for everybody?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
it wasn't that hard.
Okay. Those were the 3 easier ones. So the 3 harder ones now we're going to do. Actually, they're not that hard because you've already done one of them at least. So let's look at page, we'll save the number 4 for last. Let's talk about page 59 first, okay? So we've got number 4s, number 5s, and number 6s, and we'll save number 4s for a few minutes. They're the most challenging. All right, so number 5 sentence opener, you've already actually done this as part of your dress ups, and that's a www.asia.because. Now, in our dress ups, we have a www.asia, when, while, whereas, since, if, although, as one dress up, and we have a because as another dress up, and we're going to keep doing it that way. But for openers, when you do a number 5, it can be any of those words or because, right? So you will now have a www.asia dress up in your paragraph, a because dress up in your paragraph, and then in your paragraph also, you will have a sentence that begins with either when, while, where, as, since, if, although, or because. Now, if it's the first word of the sentence, it counts as your what?
Sentence starter.
Yes. And you will put a number 5 in front of it. You cannot underline the www.asia or the because and make it do double duty, okay? It cannot be a sentence type and a dress up at the same time. Does that make sense? There's some people who are very efficient and they want to label them as both. Now, am I just trying to ruin your life or give you extra work to do? Or am I trying to get you to include variety in your paragraphs? What do you think?
Oh, you're trying to ruin my life. Definitely.
Okay. So really, the whole point, remember what the point of the style stuff is. What's this? This is the V word. What's the V word?
Variety.
Variety. So if you only have one www.asia in your paragraph or one because in your paragraph, and they're always at the beginning of the sentence, so you can make them do double duty, is that variety?
No.
No, Mrs. Kimbrell, they cried. That's the B word. That's the B word. What's the B word?
Boring.
Boring. And being boring is a crime in writing, okay? All right, there's some people that are going to read your papers because they have to, like your grandmother or your teacher. But you don't want other people not wanting to read your papers because they're just boring to read, okay? You would like people to like to read your papers because they're not boring, okay? And so one thing we do is we include these style things because for some reason, the writing is better when you include them. Now, it's not always better. One time it's not better is if you just stick any old word in there and it's really awkward, right? But if you work it hard and you make sure you pick just the right word that says just the right thing that you want to say, then your writing is really very specific and you use high quality words and it just makes your writing better. Okay. So let's just look at an example of what a number 5 looks like there on page 59. You're going to continue to use, I haven't told you before where you have to use the www.asia. I gave you a choice about anywhere in the sentence, right? But now you're going to intentionally use one somewhere in the paragraph as the first word of the sentence, and you're going to intentionally use another one as a www.asia dress up and another because, okay? So previously, we could use them anywhere. Now we want to intentionally include one in the beginning and another one in the middle. So, although he was terrified, he tried not to show it. Bolded number 5 in brackets. When, while, where, as, since, if, although. Sometimes it's possible to create a number 5 by putting 2 shorter sentences together. John glanced down. He noticed a large spider on his leg. All right, now we could make a www.asia out of that by adding that simple word when. When John glanced down, he noticed a large spider on his leg. Now we don't know what happened after that, but probably John leapt up screaming while he tried to also brush the large spider off of his leg. Okay, so you can sometimes combine sentences with a www.asia or with a because. What I want you to understand, and are you starting to see this? Any sentence you have written can be rewritten as any other kind of sentence, okay? Sometimes you have to add some words. Sometimes you have to take some words away. Sometimes you have to adjust things so it won't be awkward, but you can always rewrite a sentence as a different type of sentence, okay? And you can do that because it's your paragraph. Authors have power. All right. The comma is necessary, especially when it comes at the beginning of a sentence and the subject comes right after it. Okay. Now, then we've been working on these things, so we'll do some exercises if we have time, but I want to move on here. The number 6 is the very short sentence. Who's done the very short sentence before? Anybody in here intentionally worked on including a very short sentence? Okay. A very short sentence is a sentence that has only 2 to 5 words, and it isn't a fragment, okay? They should have made this the number 5, and they should have made the number 5 the number 6, because people are always getting confused about this because it's the number 6, and then people think, oh, I can have up to 6 words. No, you can't. You can only have up to 5 words, okay? Now, this is not a fragment. This is a full-fledged sentence. And what does a sentence have to have in it in order to be a sentence? Who knows what has to be present in a sentence? Laura Kate?
A verb.
And?
A noun.
Subject.
Right. Subject, which is a noun, and a verb, okay? So this is not a very short sentence. Oh, wow. Okay, that's what we call an interjection. It does not count as your number 6, okay? It has to have a noun, which is the subject, and it has to have a verb. So here's a couple of examples. Love is patient. Jesus wept, the shortest verse in the whole Bible, okay? Jesus is the subject, wept is the verb. That counts as your number 6, okay? Sometimes you can create very short sentences by breaking up a long sentence into 2 shorter ones, but you've got to be careful, because if you end up with like a dependent clause that you're calling a sentence, that doesn't count, okay? So here's an example. Bravely, the gladiator faced the lion as the audience breathlessly waited and watched. So you're going through, you're like, oh no, I don't have a number 6 in this sentence, in this paragraph. So you break them up. Bravely, the gladiator faced the lion, period. Gladiator faced, subject, verb. The audience waited breathlessly. Audience, subject, waited, verb. Those are 2 real sentences, okay? All right. Now, why do we need to do this? Why do you think I'm asking you? I've been telling you to do all these more and more and more and more stuff to your sentences, and now I'm saying don't do that in one of the sentences. Why do you think? some of y'all have done this before and you probably know. I had a kid in my first writing class that I taught as a, for other people's kids besides a co-op, who absolutely hated the very short sentence. He fought me over them. Of course I won because I'm the teacher. So I get to make the rules, but he thought they were terrible. He thought they sounded unintelligent because this kid's sentences were all very long with lots of clauses and lots of prepositional phrases and all kinds of very fancy dress ups. And he just thought these were just terrible. But he, of all people, needed the very short sentence because the sentences were so long. So after a while, if you keep doing all this stuff that I've been making you do, your sentences develop kind of a droning effect. And then this is kind of like staccato notes in a piano piece. You've got to have something that breaks up that rhythm, okay? So these serve an important purpose. And in level 2, we even go on and really double down on it and have 3 very short sentences in a row, but I don't require that in this class, okay? These can sound awkward sometimes. You just have to work on them till they're not. Everything sounds awkward when you first start doing it. Have you noticed that? There's only one way to get past the awkward phase, and what is that? What do you think?
Right.
To make it a habit.
You have to keep practicing it, right? And by the end of the school year, you will have practiced it so much that it won't be awkward anymore, okay? You're going to sit down for your final exam, and you're going to whip out a paragraph with a topic clincher and with all of these style without breaking a sweat, okay? That's because you're going to practice them so much this year, all right? So now those are the 2 easy ones, and we'll try to do some style of that in a minute. Let's talk about the hard one. The hard one is the number 4 opener. Now, some of you have done IEW before. Some of you have done number 4s, no doubt. So you know what I'm talking about. These, I think, are the most challenging to do correctly. There are lots of ways to do them incorrectly, but most people don't tend to write number 4s accidentally. Number 4s require thinking and planning and a lot of sweating and suffering, okay? Especially when you first start doing them. But of all of the openers, these are the showstoppers. If you can learn to do one of these correctly, the world is your oyster, at least in English class, okay? One of my girls in that same class that I was just telling you about was a very good writer. And at some point, she had a grandmother who was an English professor. So at some point that year, she sent her some of her papers that she had written. And her grandmother particularly remarked upon her number 4 openers. Of course, Kate took out all the markings. So her grandmother didn't go, "What's a number 4?" She just read the papers and said, "I have college students that can't write these things correctly. Very good job." These are actually in the world of grammar called present participial phrase openers or past participial phrase openers, but you don't have to know that to be able to do one of these, okay? All you have to know is the thing, excuse me, just a minute. The thing after the ing has to be the thing that is doing the inging. I'll say that again. The thing after the ing has to be the thing that is doing the inging. Okay. Now, that sounds very confusing. So let's just look at some examples, which is the best way to understand this. Okay. So here's some correct ones. There's always going to be an ing form of a verb at the beginning of the sentence, right? And then it's going to be followed by either a prepositional phrase or a just a comma after the prepositional phrase. And then it's going to be followed by the main sentence. Hold on a second, sorry. So, appearing over the horizon, the sun rose majestically. So, in this sentence, the sun is doing what?
The inging.
Appearing.
Yeah, the sun is doing the inging, and this particular inging is appearing, right?
Appearing.
So the sun is a noun, it's the subject of the sentence, and it is actually doing that action, right? Seated, so we can have ing or ed openers. You can have a past participial opener. Seated, he tried to catch his breath. So in this sentence, he is the subject of the sentence, and he is doing what? He's seated, right? Okay. Creeping along in the dark, the detective spied the thief on the dock. So in this sentence, the detective is definitely doing what?
Inging.
Which is
Creeping.
creeping. Okay. So all of these are right. Now let's see some that aren't right. Trouble occurs when the noun after the phrase is not the noun it is describing. Your brain is always going to attach that beginning phrase to the nearest thing after the comma. Okay, so you can get some really funny things like this. Creeping along in the dark, the dock was a spooky place. Your brain is going to go, wait, what? 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 You ever had to read something over and over again so you tried to figure out what the author was actually trying to say? Sometimes it's because of things like this, okay? We know that the dock is not creeping. Who's missing out of this sentence?
The detective.
Yeah, the detective is missing in action here, but he's definitely the one that's creeping, but instead we stuck the dock in there. Here's a great one. Walking along the beach, the sun rose majestically over the horizon. So, have y'all ever seen the Jimmy Dean sausage commercials where the sun is like the guy dressed up in the sun costume? This is the picture that pops into my head. I get this picture of this guy in this huge sun costume walking along the beach. Okay, who's missing in this sentence? Walking along the beach, the sun. We know it's not the sun that's walking along the beach unless it's a Jimmy Dean sausage commercial, okay? So somebody is missing from this sentence. Who likes to go to the beach? Anybody in here like to go? Samra likes to go to the beach. Okay, walking along the beach, Samra, how could we put the rest of that stuff in that sentence, but put Samra in there first? Walking along the beach, Samra.
Saw the sun rise majestically.
Ta-da! So Samra was missing from the original sentence. We put her back in, and now the sentence works. Okay? Now, there are also some other ways to make incorrect ones. First of all, it's by using an ing form of a verb as a subject, which we call a gerund. Okay? Singing was her greatest joy. All right. Singing there, you would think, I've got a number 4, singing. But actually here, singing is the subject of the sentence. What was her greatest joy? Singing, subject, noun. Okay, so that doesn't count. And one clue you can look for is there's going to be something missing here. And if you don't see it, then probably it's not a number 4 opener. What is that thing that is missing?
A comma.
A comma, exactly. If it doesn't need a comma, then probably you haven't written a correct number 4. Singing, and sometimes students will try to fake me out, but I do actually read the sentences, and so you can't fake me out, okay? So sometimes students will go, I don't know, I'll just put a comma here. Singing, comma. What's her greatest joy? No. It's wrong. It's a gerund, okay? Just because you stick a comma in there after an ing doesn't mean you're going to get credit for it, okay? All right. During the night, the tornado hit the city. Okay, during is a preposition. Remember that whole huge list of prepositions that we worked on last time? Let's just take a real quick look at that again, and you will see that during is a preposition. Look on page 66. And right at the bottom of the second column, you can circle the word during. So if you label this as a number 4, you aren't going to get credit for a number 4, okay? Now, I actually have very kindly included this on your checklist. If you look on page 206. If you look on page 206 and you look at sentence types down at the bottom, you will see number 4, ing ed opener requires a comma, during doesn't count. Preposition. It took me years to think of putting that on the preposition, on the checklist, and now students hardly ever do that because they remember. Yes, Laura Kate.
So just kind of like you can't have a prepositional opener. The one that is doing the inging cannot be in a prepositional phrase, right?
The one that is doing the inging has to be the subject of the sentence. I can't even think of how you could do that. Do you have an idea in mind?
No, it's just
Okay.
some English you would whatever. Try
Okay,
not to.
yeah. Really close to that comma needs to be the subject of your sentence. You might have an adjective or something, an article adjective in front of it, but not anything else. Your brain is automatically going to attach itself to that noun wherever it is. Okay. So these can be tricky to learn. It was a long time. I mean, I probably wrote these sometimes before I started doing IEW, but when I started really working on them, I realized that they were really hard to do. Okay. So let's just look at page 106 and let's do a couple of these, and then we're going to have to move on because these are definitely the most challenging. But if you will put a little bit of sweat into learning to do these correctly, you will reap tremendous reward from it. They're just the most sophisticated, the best sounding of all of the sentence types. Okay. I mean, I can't overstate how important they are in your style. Okay. And you will write one of these off the top of your head in the final exam. I hardly have anybody that ever misses it by the final exam. Okay. So I don't want anybody to get discouraged. If you think they're really hard, you just keep working on them and they will come. Okay. And then, you know, I just finished grading a bunch of level 3 papers, and I think maybe 2 or 3 instances in the level 3 papers, somebody might have accidentally labeled a gerund as a number 4 or whatever, but mostly people don't have any trouble writing these by the time they get to level 2 even, okay? As long as you work on them. If you don't work on them, then you're not going to get any good at them. You don't put them off until you get good at them, because that's never going to happen without putting in the blood, sweat, and tears, okay? All right, let's look at page 106. So this is a little report I wrote about Martha Berry, who is a famous Georgia educator. And one way you can do a number 4 opener is to combine some sentences with an ing. And so let's look at a couple of ways you could do that. Everybody get your pen or pencil to write this in. Okay. Martha Berry, you can also take a sentence you've already got and redo it as a number 4. So sometimes you might put sentences together. Sometimes you just might rewrite the sentence. So here's an example. Martha Berry was from Rome, Georgia, which is located in the foothills of the Appalachian Mountains. All right, so if we wanted to do a number 4 opener, which starts with an ing or an ed, a present or a past form of a verb, we could pick out one that's already in the sentence. And I see one there, it's located. So circle located in that first set of sentence, that first sentence that I gave you. Martha Berry was from Rome, Georgia, which is located in the foothills of the Appalachian Mountains. All right. So, hey, we've already got an ed form of a verb. Okay. So we just move it to the front. Located in the foothills of the Appalachian Mountains, Rome, Georgia was the home of who?
Martha Berry.
Martha Berry. Okay. Now, if you had done this, this would have been wrong. Located in the foothills of the Appalachian Mountains, Martha Berry, that just sounds kind of weird, doesn't it? She would have been located in the foothills of the Appalachian Mountains. But, okay, but that wouldn't really make that much sense. Okay, let's do this next one, which involves putting two sentences together with an ing form of a verb. Martha lived there with her rich parents, 7 siblings, and 3 cousins. She would sometimes slip away to a quiet cabin nearby to read and write. Okay, now this time there's not one that I could use already. So I'm going to take one of the verbs and I'm going to put an ing on it. I see lived there, circle lived. And I'm going to change that to living, and let's see what we can do with this. Living there with her rich parents, 7 siblings, and 3 cousins, Martha would, how could we finish out this combining sentence?
Sometimes slip away to a quiet cabin nearby to read and write.
Yes. Exactly. Sometimes, so living there with her rich parents, 7 siblings, and 3 cousins, Martha would sometimes slip away to a quiet cabin nearby to write. Now, you could change that around. You wouldn't have to necessarily have all the exact same words, but I'm just wanting us to practice this right now, okay? She met some of the poor rural children at the cabin one day. Martha was shocked to learn that they did not attend school or Sunday school. All right, also, I do not see, actually there is an ed verb in there. Martha was shocked to learn, but this would be kind of weird. Shocked to learn that they did not attend school or Sunday school. Martha met some of the poor rural children. That just sounds backwards, doesn't it? So we're going to pick that first verb, met, and we're going to change it to meeting. Meeting some of the poor rural children at the cabin one day, Martha, what would be the rest of that sentence?
Was shocked to learn that they did not attend school or Sunday school.
Okay. Exactly. Okay. She found they did not even know common Bible stories. Martha shared some of the stories with the boys, which delighted them. So we're going to take found and we're going to change it to finding. So circle found there. Finding they did not even know common Bible stories. Martha, what?
Shared some of the stories with the boys, which delighted them.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay. Martha invited them to return the next Sunday with their brothers and sisters. She did not know that was the beginning of a great project that would become the Berry Schools. So we're going to take invited and we're going to change it to inviting them to return the next Sunday with their brothers and sisters. Okay, let's see. Aiden, are you raising your hand?
No,
No.
I'm not going to.
Huh?
No, I'm not.
Okay. All right, Laura Kate.
She had just started the great project that would become the Berry Schools.
Okay, is it okay for Laura Kate to change that sentence? Yeah, it's her sentence, right? She had just started. I like that. She had just started. Now you could do it just like you already had it written. You could say she did not know that was the beginning of a great project, blah, 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 blah. But I like Laura Kate. She had just started whatever it was Laura Kate said.
The great project that would become the Berry School.
Okay, yes. All right. All right, blah, blah, blah. Okay, the Sunday school outgrew the cabin. It had to move to a larger building then to 4 separate locations. Okay, I'm taking outgrew and changing it to outgrowing. Outgrowing the cabin, the Sunday school. What can we say there? Somebody that hasn't answered yet.
The Sunday school moved to a large building and then to 4 separate locations.
Exactly. Okay. Martha soon dreamed of a school for poor mountain children. She chose as her motto, educating the head, the heart, and the hands. So I took dreamed of and changed it to dreaming of. I should have put dreaming of there. Dreaming of, how can we put this? How can we make one big sentence out of this? Let's see. Somebody that hasn't had a go yet. Let's see. Charlotte, could you do that one for us?
Okay. Dreaming of educating poor mountain children's head, heart, and hands.
Actually, get in the part about the school. Let's see.
Oh.
Yeah, I would basically just take the first part and make it dreaming of, and then I would put a comma and do the rest of it after the comma. Dreaming of a school for poor mountain children, comma.
She chose her motto to be educating the head, heart, and hands.
Great. Perfect. Okay. She started with a boarding school for boys where they learned to work, study, work, and serve others. Martha later added one for girls. Okay, starting with a, what did she start with?
Boarding school.
Okay, a boarding school for boys. And you can, this keeps going, and you can really put this in here, where they learn to study, work, and serve others. Martha later, comma, Martha later added one for girls. So basically what you've got are, you've got to say it to yourself and make sure it still makes sense, because sometimes, sometimes you come up with weird stuff and it doesn't work. So you got to say it out loud once you make it and make sure it still makes sense. Okay, Martha, this is not such a hard one. Martha used her fame wisely. She helped develop similar schools for rural children all over Georgia. Okay, so I'm taking used and I'm changing it to using. Who wants to do this one? This is pretty straightforward. Somebody that hasn't done one yet.
I can.
Okay.
Using her fame wisely, she helped develop similar schools for rural children all over Georgia.
Exactly. So basically you put a comma between those two parts and you make the noun, the verb, the ing form. Let's see, the school continued to grow to include 30,000 acres. When Martha died, the Berry schools included a boys' school, a girls' school, and a 4-year college. Okay, now this one gets a little complicated. Continuing to grow to include what? What did it include?
A boys' school, a girls' school, and a 4-year college.
Okay. I think I just stick with the 30,000 because then it gets a little complicated to fit that in later. So continuing to grow to include 30,000 acres. Now notice I moved when Martha died to the end because you really need to do that. So what is it that's continuing to grow in this sentence? Is it Martha Berry? Because if we put Martha there, then we're going to have a really odd sentence. Continuing to grow to include 30,000 acres, Martha Berry. See how that doesn't work? We have to move Martha to the end of the sentence because what actually is growing in this sentence?
Berries.
The school. So the school has to be the thing after the comma, okay? Does that make sense? Continuing to grow to include 30,000 acres. The Berry schools included a boys' school, a girls' school, and a four-year college when Martha died. This is why I say you have to read it and make sure that that thing after the ing is really the thing that is doing the inging. We don't want Martha Berry growing to include 30,000 acres. That would just be weird. Okay. All right. Martha blazed a trail for education in Georgia. She showed how one person can make a difference. Today, Berry College continues as a living monument to Martha Berry's vision. Okay. So blazing a trail. Now, I would not include that today part there. That's just too much. All right. So we're going to just leave that by itself. So how do we do those other parts? Martha blazed a trail for education in Georgia. She showed how one person can make a difference. Blazing a trail for
education in Georgia. She showed how one person can make a difference.
Okay. And is she the one who blazed the trail?
Yeah.
Exactly. She is. So this is not the same problem as we had with 30,000 acres. Okay. But you always have to read it and make sure that what you do makes sense. Now, who in here has actually learned how to do this already and actually has succeeded in doing these already? Has anybody actually felt like they've gotten comfortable with doing this before? Okay. The rest of y'all might have problems, okay? But you're going to work on it. If you need help, go to your editor. And if your editor needs help, y'all get in touch with me, okay? These are totally worth working hard on, okay? And before you know it, you'll be doing them correctly, all right? Okay. Would anybody like to ask any other questions about this before we go on? No? Okay. So the other thing we're going to work on today is, first of all, I want you to look at your assignment sheet on page 206, okay? This is the, the actual assignment sheet is on 205. The composition checklist is on 206. Now, basically, what you're going to be doing these next 2 weeks is exactly what you just did with your whale thing, all right? You're going to take several of your sources. You're going to make fused outlines, and you're going to write the middle part of the paper, which is what we call the body paragraph. So you'll notice here at the top of these columns, just circle that. I don't have these labeled 1, 2, and 3 anymore. These are labeled 2, 3, and 4. Do y'all see that here? Okay, so just circle those. That's because this is actually the middle of your paper that you're going to be writing, because we're going to come back after we write this middle part. We're going to come back and write the introduction and the conclusion. All right. This is a really neat thing that IEW has done, which is to have you write all the middle stuff and then go back and write the introduction. Who's ever had this problem before when you've been trying to write? I'm sure all of you have had to write some kind of paper at some point. You try to get started and you start with the introduction and you sit there and you stare at the paper for, I don't know, minutes, hours, days. Maybe you put it off for weeks. And then finally, in a great flurry, you sit down and you start writing something and you tell everything there is to know about your subject in the introduction. And then you get to the middle part where you're supposed to be talking about that stuff, and there's nothing else to say because you told all of it in the introduction. Has anybody ever had that problem before with writing introductions? No? Okay. So the way we get around that is we write the middle part first, and then we write the introduction, because then we know what we're going to say in the rest of the paper, and we're not going to say it again in the introduction. We're going to try to make it more interesting to make our reader want to read the paper, okay? So let's look at what a paper actually, how a paper is actually configured. And if you'll turn to page Hold on a second. Turn to page 34. This is what we're going to be writing this week. This is a model of a 5-paragraph report, and we are going to be doing just 5 paragraphs. There are lots of other kinds of papers that you can write that aren't just 5 paragraphs, but the 5-paragraph report is a great way to practice structure because there's enough of everything to learn how to do it. And then you can always adapt your writing structure to whatever it is you have to do. So is everybody on page 34 with me? 34, okay. So the part we're going to be writing this time is this middle part that I have in a bracket, the report body, okay? So I want everybody to draw some kind of bracket here and write, beside it, write assignment number 5, okay? We are not going to be writing the introduction or the conclusion over these next 2 weeks. We're only going to be writing the middle part, which are the body paragraphs. The body is like the meat of the report. Then we're going to come back next time. We're going to learn how to write an introduction. We're going to learn how to write a conclusion. Those are special paragraphs that are really different than body paragraphs, okay? They don't have topic clinchers. They have other stuff in them besides your main information. Yes, Charlotte?
Is the 5 paragraphs including the introduction and conclusion?
Yes, when we get finished with the whole thing in the last class before Christmas break, it will be 5 paragraphs. But right now, we're only writing the middle 3, okay? And you know how you picked 3 topics that you wanted your well paragraph to be about? Okay, let's see. What 3 topics did you pick, Charlotte?
Well, I did the sad history, singing, and migration.
Okay. So if you wanted to do a 5-paragraph well report, you would come back and you would write an introduction and a conclusion. And that would be the middle part. That would be the body. Actually, what y'all did this last time was you wrote the body of a research report, okay? We just didn't do the introduction and the conclusion. But now we are going to do that. But right now, just like you did last time, over the next 2 weeks, you're going to be writing the middle part, okay? And you've got 3 topics for that middle part, okay? So I'm going to let everybody tell me what your 3 topics are for the middle part, the body of your paragraph. Rosa, what are your 3, what's your subject and what are your 3 topics?
For Humpback Wells, the one I'm going to be doing.
The one you're going to be doing.
Louisa May Alcott's childhood, her books, and her life as a Civil War nurse.
Life as a what?
Civil War nurse.
Civil War nurse. Oh, cool. Okay. All right. That's going to be wonderful. Okay. So everybody turn to page 30. Okay. And we're going to start filling out this report organizer. You know, when I was in school and I was assigned a paper like this, I had no idea what to do. I'm sure y'all are a lot smarter than me even already. But I mean, I didn't know how to do it. The teacher just said, write a paper about a country. And I remember getting a book. I decided to do Turkey for some reason. And I got a book, and it was a history book of Turkey. And it was like really small print and lots of chapters. And I just sort of started reading it at the beginning, and I just kind of started writing down stuff. And I had no plan, okay? So one good way of doing a paper is to have a plan, all right? And so that's what a report organizer is. So now we just heard about Rosa. Rosa's doing Louisa May Alcott, who of course wrote Little Women, who is probably her most famous book, but she wrote so much more. And then Rosa broke it down into 3 topics: her childhood, her books, and her career as a Civil War nurse. Oh, that reminds me, Rosa, there is a wonderful short story, which is really long, that you can get online. I have to go back and find it. It has to do with somebody being a Civil War nurse, and I'm sure it came out of her experiences. Have you ever read a short story by her about being a Civil War nurse? It was kind of a sad story. I remember that, but I can't. I've got to go back.
I did read that.
Huh?
Hospital sketches?
I think it was part of Hospital Sketches. Did you read it?
Yeah, I read hospital sketches.
Okay, okay. All right. So now everybody should have their report subject figured out, and you should have your sources, and you should know what your topics are. So I want everybody to tell me what your report subject is, write it in the top, and then I want you to list your 3 topics. Vincent, what are you doing?
Well, I'm doing chickens. I think
Okay.
I'm just going to do,
Okay, go ahead.
I'm going to do eggs, chicks, and adults.
Okay, so you're doing like the developmental stages?
Yeah, like as they get older.
Okay, is there enough information on each of those things that you've been able to find?
Well, I just
The
got
other
stuff.
option would be you could do 1 paragraph about developmental stages. You could do another paragraph about behavior, which is really fun.
Mhm.
And you could do another paragraph about habitat and diet. Have you looked on Wikipedia to see what you could find
Well, not on
in the way of
Wikipedia, but
topics?
different sources here.
Okay, you know, Wikipedia is, I can't remember, sometimes I forget to tell everybody this, but I did send an email out about it. Wikipedia is a great way to find topics. Okay. All right, so let me just show you this real quick, and you might adjust your topics if you need to. Let's see, basic. Okay, so here's Wikipedia on chickens. You cannot use Wikipedia as a source. Did everybody get that email from me?
Yep.
Okay, all right, so you can't use Wikipedia as a source, but there's other things you can do with Wikipedia, and here's one of them. You can find your subject on Wikipedia, and then they have this great outline here. So look here at chickens, behavior. They have all of this stuff about behavior, reproduction, embryology, genetics and genomes, physiology. So general biology and habitat is, great. Chickens have a lot of social behaviors. They're pretty amazing. Here's origins, which would be a great topic. How people use chickens. You know, people do have chickens as pets. They make great pets. History. Okay, the great thing about it though is, say you wanted to find out about chicken behavior, like social behavior. You go down here. Chickens are gregarious birds and live together in flocks. Okay, so what we want to see is, what do they have here in this article that we could actually use? And you see all these little numbers here? This takes you down to this huge bunch of sources. Look at this. Fantastic. Top cock, roosters crow in pecking order. That's pretty fascinating, I think. Let's see. World's oldest chicken starred in magic shows was on Tonight Show. Now, I think that would be really great information for an introduction. Because when you do an introduction, you want to give some interesting background information that didn't have anything to do with your particular topic. Vincent, that would be really funny. Talk about how a famous chicken used to be on the Tonight Show. Let's see, crowing contest. Cock crowing contest recognized as national heritage in Belgium. There's all kinds of stuff you can actually use. These are not Wikipedia articles. These are other articles. Why do chickens puff up their feathers? 4 reasons explained. Okay. So you might possibly do chicken. You could do one of your paragraphs could be the stages, Vincent, if you wanted to. And then you could do another one about behavior. And look here, they've got social behavior, crowing, rooster crowing contest, courtship, nesting and laying behavior, broodiness, hatching in early life, defensive behavior. I mean, there's tons of information. And I'll bet you there's an article associated with every one of these that you could get to. Okay. So you could do developmental stages, you could do behavior, and you could do use by humans. I think diseases and ailments would be kind of boring, but that's just me. And origins could be interesting in the introduction. And again, all of these probably have articles associated with them. You just have to sort of nose around and figure that out, Vincent. You have any questions about that?
No.
Okay, so you might want to talk to your editor after we get through and see if you need to find, get some more sources and redo your topics, okay? I kind of think that the eggs, the whatever that was, it might be, I'm not sure there's enough. Now, if you're really committed to that and you do have enough, then that's okay, okay? That's biology, basically. Which, are you doing biology in school this year?
No.
No? Okay. I mean, if you were, that would be a really good biology topic. Okay? So you think about it and you and your editor talk about it, okay? All right. Thank you for letting me use this as an example. Did I do the Wikipedia thing with y'all last week?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see. Charlotte, what are you doing?
Well, my subject was the Roaring Twenties.
Hmm.
I was gonna do it about music, dance, and fashion.
Cool. All right. And I'll just make the suggestion, even though we're not starting this right now, for the introduction, you might write you might do a little research into F. Scott Fitzgerald, who was the most famous novelist of the Roaring Twenties. His most famous book was The Great Gatsby, but all of his things that he wrote, because he lived in the Roaring Twenties and he was actually a part of all of that, all of his stories have to do with that time period. So he would make an interesting person to discuss in your introduction. Okay, so make sure you put that down, the Roaring Twenties. And did you get enough information about all 3 of those topics, Charlotte?
I got some information, yeah.
Okay, so if you need more, go to Wikipedia and look for some articles in that list at the bottom for the Roaring Twenties. Okay, right. Let me know if you run into any kind of problems. Let's see, Laura Kate, what are you doing? Oh yeah, wait a minute. I know what you're doing. I can't remember right this second. Donuts. Yes. Okay. So, and you and your editor have talked about this, and y'all are good with this.
Yes.
Okay. So what are we doing? And is there enough information? I mean, I'm just asking.
There is. I actually found a lot of information on this.
Okay. So tell me what your 3 topics are.
History, varieties, and then popular donuts in the United States.
Okay. All right. I would like to, you need to have some information in there about, like, maybe it's in variety, but maybe somewhere in there needs to be information about how you actually make a donut, like what's in it and why does it turn out like it does. And, you know what I'm saying, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. As long as you've got plenty of information.
Yeah.
Y'all, paragraphs, I need to put this somewhere, but paragraphs should never be more than 300 words a piece, okay? So we need to write that down somewhere, like on the checklist. We should put that at the top of the checklist. And y'all being the age you are, you need to have at least, I would say at the very least 150 words in your paragraph, but certainly not less than 150 words. I'd say probably aim between 200 and 250, but you definitely don't want to have paragraphs that are shorter than 150 words at your age. Okay, so at the top of page 206, I want you to write this. Paragraphs between 150 to 300 words. So I had a student, that same student who sent our grandmother her papers for writing class. She had a lot to say, and so she'd try to get around the 5-paragraph limit by like making her paragraphs like 2 pages long each. Not gonna happen. Okay, 300 words is still a really long paragraph. Aim for 200 to 250, but you can have as few as 150 and as much as 300, okay? I'm just being generous that way. And that's straight from the mouth of my English professor friend. He said, oh no, paragraph should never be more than 300 words. And that's still a very long paragraph. Okay. Let's see. All right, Laura Kate, as long as you got plenty of information.
On the history, actually, during the wars, the Salvation Army only had ingredients to make donuts, so they made donuts out of like tin cans for like cutting them out and all that.
Oh, that is awesome. I love that. Yes, little known facts about donuts. Yes, fantastic. Okay, let's see. Aiden, what are you doing?
I'm doing the Titicaca water frog.
Oh, yes. And did you go through and find some of those
Yeah,
Google
I did
books?
actually. I found some good places.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay. Did everybody see that email where I told you about if you can't find an actual book, you can probably find one on Google Books and just use it as though it were an actual book? Okay. There is a special way of citing that, but I'm not going to go into that. When we make our works cited page, we're just going to pretend like it's an actual physical copy that you held in your hand. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
There is a special way of doing that in this digital age, but that's beyond the scope of this class right now. Okay.
Okay.
I'm going to introduce you though to physical, to works cited in just a minute. Okay. So what are your 3 topics, Aiden?
So I'm gonna do one of the main things about the frog is its skin. It's one of the coolest skin in any amphibian. I'm also gonna do diet and habitat.
Okay, so there's plenty of information about the skin.
Yeah, it's the biggest thing about the frog.
Cool. Okay,
Yeah.
and plenty of information about your other 2 topics?
Yeah.
Super. Okay, that's awesome. All right, and let's see, Samra, what are you doing? Oh, I can't hear you, but your sound isn't working. Try again. We've lost your sound. Can you do a chat with me? I don't know. I've been having this happen just sporadically with different people in every online class, and I have no idea. Okay, trees is a really huge subject. So I think you need to either pick a particular kind of tree, like fir trees, or what do you call them? Deciduous trees, trees that lose their leaves. Okay, because that's a really large subject. So what were you thinking of doing for your 3 topics? Can you do a chat with me? The trees through seasons. Okay. Okay, so I think let's just look real quick at Wikipedia, because I think we're going to have to, this is one that we probably are going to have to narrow down. Let's see. I think it's just there's so many different types of trees. Maybe it would be good to pick a particular type of tree, like hold on a minute, like let's see. Let's see if you've got your sound back yet. Can you try that again? I can't. Let's see. Okay, I still can't. All right. Let's see. Do the unmute and let's see if it came back this time. Say something. I think I can barely, I'm not sure. Scoot up a little closer to the computer and speak up. I hear a faint sound, but it's like something is blocking it or something. I don't know. Okay, so look here at trees and let's see what they have listed here. I think it might be better if you tried to focus it on like a particular tree, just like I said with Vincent. The problem was the opposite. With Vincent, his was a little too small, focused on just the biology, and with yours, I think it's a little too big. So what about the giant? What do you call those things? Those big California trees? What are those called?
Sequoia?
Yeah, is that what they're called?
Yeah, they have
think-
sequoias and redwoods.
Okay. Let's see. You're in California, right, Samra? This will be kind of a cool thing. Let's see what they have about this. Ecology, discovering, superlatives. You could do their, their actual ecology, where they're found. Anyway, even if you just narrowed it down to evergreens, okay? Evergreens would be a good thing to do. Or you could just go with the giant redwoods. Evergreens, evergreen trees. Let's see what comes up with that. Okay. Well, this doesn't have very much to choose from. So what I think we need to do is think of something that's a little bit more focused instead of just trees in general, okay? Because that's a huge, huge subject. So I want you to talk with your mom and y'all see if you can come up with something, and I can actually talk to you too after class to help focus it a little bit, okay? Do you have a book or anything about a particular kind of tree? Let's see. Do you have a book there? Nature, Secret Wisdom of Nature. Okay, and it has a tree section? Huh? Okay. Well, I mean, you could just do trees, but let's see. Let's go back again. I guess all trees have these certain parts. That could be one of them, parts and function. Uses. And, oh, what about superlative trees? Let's see what that one is. I'm sure that probably has to do with the giant redwood. Giant sequoia. I think, yeah. Now, let me see. Did you do a, did you tell me what your 3 topics were? Okay, 3 through season, trees communication, and tree senses. That sounds a little a little hazy, and it's going to end up being hard to write about. Okay. So I think we need to pick something that's a little more like in the mainstream about trees. Okay. You could do tree parts. Let's go back to this again. Tree parts, and you could also do like another paragraph about different classifications of trees. And then this would be interesting, trees in mythology. That could be an interesting topic. Okay. But I think your topics are a little hazy, and it's going to end up being hard to write about as a research paper. Okay. So let's talk about this again after class. Okay. And Vincent, you get back to me about what you're going to do about the chicken topics. Okay. All right. I want this to be a really good experience for y'all. And when you get done with this, it should be a really important piece of writing that you can save for your, what do you call that thing that you turn in at the end of the year? Portfolio. Okay. So I want to make sure that we pick things that are possible to write about and that aren't going to be overly difficult to write about. My point here is for you to do research and for you to write about it in a particular kind of structure. Okay. Everybody understand? Okay. Now, one thing I'd like to do with you before we go is I'd like for you to take one of your, you can probably still use that book, Samra. You just may need to get some extra articles for the other parts. I would like for every one of your fused outlines to have at least 2 sources included. You're going to be making fused outlines for your paragraphs, just like you did for the whale paragraph. And you're going to be writing them up as the 3-body paragraphs with all the style and everything. Okay. Does everybody understand that? If you look at page 205, it's spelled out for you. So what you're going to do tomorrow morning, if you look on page 205 with me, we're going to list our sources here in a minute. Tomorrow, you're going to take your sticky tabs, your colored sticky tabs. Does everybody have those? Everybody knows where those are? So your job tomorrow is to start reading through and marking your topics in your sources. So if you've got to go find more sources today, like Vincent, you probably will, I'm not sure. Summer, you probably will. Do that today so that you have it all ready to go tomorrow, okay? And then I want you to start reading through your stuff. And instead of taking notes, just take your sticky tabs and put a color for each. You might do pink for topic number 1, yellow for topic number 2, blue for topic number 3. Mark them, because on day 2, you're going to start making notes for your fused outline. And I've actually provided on your ThinkWave. Let me open this here so I can show you. I've been getting some good questions from y'all, and so please, please, please always ask me questions. If you have questions, let me show you number 5. Hold on a second. Number 5. Okay, I'm going to show you what you have available on number 5 to print, okay? All right. So this is what you have on number 5. You're going to print off your composition checklist, which we just looked at in the book. You've got fused outline forms. And so we're doing 3 body paragraphs. So how many fused outline forms are you going to need to print?
3.
That's right. 1 for each topic, right? And then I've also got a report organizer in here. You can print this and make it separate if you want to, or you can just do it in your book, whichever you'd prefer. Okay. But this is that one we just started filling out with our 3 topics. Okay. These are blank fused outline forms. Let me open this here. Okay. So these are here for you to print so that you can actually make your keyword outlines on this form, okay? So on Tuesday, not Tuesday, on day 2, you're going to actually start with your first topic. So like if you were Laura Kate, you would do your first topic here, and that would be, let's see, hold on a second. Comment, still waiting. Man, it's taking a long time to open. Sorry, y'all. I don't know why it's not opening. Oh, there we go. Okay. So if you're Laura Kate, then tomorrow you would be writing history. Why is this not working? Oh, come on now. History of, I know, do you spell it D-O-N-U-T or do you spell it D-O?
U-D-A-N-U-T-S.
Like this?
Mhm.
So if you're Laura Kate, you would be writing this tomorrow. And you would be taking information out of at least 2 sources, okay? I don't want all of the paragraph to come from one source. I want fused outlines. That means you take some from one article, something from a different article or your book. You don't necessarily have to use all 3 in every paragraph, but you do need to use at least 2 in every paragraph, okay? Does that make sense? Does anybody have any questions about that? Okay, because you're never going to be allowed in a college class or even a high school class to just take all of your information out of one source. It's just not done. Okay, so print up 3 of these and then you will have 1 for each. Okay, any questions about that? No? Okay, that's what you're going to be doing. So tomorrow you'll do your information gathering for each of the 3 topics, marking it with your sticky tabs. Who enjoyed the sticky tabs? Did you like using the colored sticky tabs? Colored sticky tabs are like a great time saver, and it helps organize your brain. And you won't be like me, you just sit down and you just start hopelessly searching through this pile of stuff, hoping you can find something that you can use. Laura Kate, is something going on over there?
No, I'm good.
Okay, you seem to be watching something. Okay.
I was just trying to figure out where that was.
Figuring out where what was?
Just trying to figure out where that sheet was.
Oh, okay. All right. So, yeah. So I want everybody to work on that, and you're going to be making your keyword outline for topic 1, then writing your topic 1 paragraph. The next day, you will do your fused outline for topic 2, then writing your topic 2. Oh, make sure you're taking these paragraphs to your editor as you finish them. Don't go drop a whole big old bunch of stuff on your editor at one time, okay? That's very upsetting, I can say, as an editor, okay? So instead of you doing one and then give it to your editor and then rewriting it the next day, you're going to be doing fused outline, right, take it to your editor, and then after you've gotten them back, you go ahead and revise them, okay? But you don't, just make sure you're following the instructions. So basically, you give your paper to the editor, and the next day you start working on the next one. And you can do all of your corrections when you get them after you finish writing the 3. That way you've got plenty of time to fix things, okay? Now, we've been over a whole lot. Some of you have got some more work to do, finding topics and finding sources. Don't wait around, do that today, because I don't want anybody to get behind. That's the worst. Has anybody experienced getting behind yet? No? Oh, some of you have, some of you haven't. Those of you who have not, good work, keep doing it. Those of you who have already experienced what a terror it is, and you're probably motivated not to let it happen again. Is that true?
Definitely.
Yeah, I can't get behind in my stuff. If I get behind in my stuff, it ruins everything. You know, if I put off grading, even if it's because of a terrible thing that's happened and I just couldn't get to grading, I still have this sense of impending doom. Y'all know what that sense is? When I don't get started on my grading right away, no matter what the reason is, it can be a good reason, or it can be like because I was just being irresponsible. It doesn't matter why. It's still that impending sense of doom. Do not live that way. You're young. You don't have to do that. You can learn better. Okay? I have better hopes for you. I had to wait till I was a grown-up to start doing anything about this. You don't want to do that. Okay? It doesn't get easier just because you get older. It just gets harder. Okay? So make those good habits right now. All right, Laura Kate, yes.
I have a question about the on page 30, are we supposed to put down all that information about our sources?
Yeah, I was going to get to using the new citation generator that I found today, but I think we'll have to wait till next time. But in the meanwhile, I'm going to try to go ahead and make a little video about it so y'all can watch it before the next class. But I used to use EasyBib, and it even says to use EasyBib on here. But EasyBib has so many pitfalls, and I found something much, much easier to use just this week. I'm always looking for the better thing, and I think I have found it. Okay. So yes, I would like for you to list, and it even says it on your book, on your checklist, to go ahead and list your sources. And I have another one of these. So is there anybody that has more than 4 sources already for your stuff?
More than 4?
More than 4. More than 4. You're required to have 2 articles in a book. I assume some people are probably going to get more. And if you do, okay. But is there anybody who actually has more than 4 already? If you do, you can just print another one of these. It's always good to write as much information down about your source as you can, because the worst thing is when you get to the end of it and you're trying to make your works cited page and you lost it, or you lost the book, or you took the book back to the library. Oh, a disaster. So here's another survival tip. Write all of it down, and then you can still make your works cited page, even if something terrible happens. Yes, Laura Kate.
So we can have more than 3 sources?
Oh, yeah, yeah. The minimum is 3. The minimum is 1 book, 2 articles. Okay?
Okay.
You can have 1 book and 10 articles if you like, although that's a lot of stuff, and I don't really recommend it for a 5-paragraph report. But it's very reasonable to say you might end up with 2 books and 3 or 4 sources, 3 or 4 articles, right? As long as they're not Wikipedia. I actually had 2 students in level 2 turn in their research paper we've been working on since the beginning of the school year. 2 of them cited Wikipedia. I'm like, you guys know better than this. Off with your head. That is not allowed in college. You would get a 0. I am not kidding. Turn in a paper where you have Wikipedia on the works cited page and you are toast. So, and the reason why is, y'all know why. Anybody can go in and put all kinds of garbage in a Wikipedia article. Some of them are really good, but you don't know. So you just can't use Wikipedia, except for their outline, for ideas for your topics, and for all those glorious articles listed at the bottom of the page. Okay? All right. Any other questions? So the great thing about this assignment is when you come back next time, you'll be turning in your 3 body paragraphs, and I will actually look over them and make sure that you're on the right track. And if there's anything that I notice that's a glaring omission or mistake, then you'll have time to actually change it on your final draft. But you are going to get a grade for this, so don't shirk it. You'll get a grade for it just like you normally do. Okay? But this is one of those two-part assignments, you know? So that's one thing I really like about this. All right, any other questions right now? No, Samra and Vincent, y'all get back in touch with me and let me know what you figured out, or if we need to talk about this and with some more guidance, okay? And let me know today, because everybody's got to get started on this tomorrow, okay? All right, you guys, we'll see you next time. Let me know. I'm sure there are going to be questions, and I want to hear from you, okay? All right, bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.